Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Grizzly Bear Sims YouTube channel, and welcome back to GreenRiver. This is episode number 27, and as indicated in, I guess, the end of episode 26, we're just kind of doing some, well, killing time, I suppose, is one way to sort of look at it. We have a few more days before I believe we're going to be able to harvest the rest of our fields, and of course that is sunflower, soybeans, and sugar beets. We do have some rain in the forecast that's coming up, and pretty much everything else that we've kind of got going on with this map is either in a state of already, already sort of going on, and we're just kind of maybe waiting until perhaps it does start raining to do things like taking and selling. Well, we've got some wool that we can sell. We've also got some. We also have some straw pellets that we can sell. Well, if you might also remember in episode number 26, I brought up the fact that I had went ahead and activated the compaction mod, FarmSim 17 compaction mod here on this map. And I do want to just kind of point out to you that you all kind of know that sort of my way that I have always sort of cultivated and seeded is I typically don't necessarily do it the more realistic way. In other words, I kind of do my headlands first and then come in and fill in the middle just so I can kind of see where I've been and everything. But this, with the compaction mod, it's kind of got me thinking that I've got to do things a little different with how I cultivate and maybe with how I seed as well, because you can kind of tell that I have already cultivated the majority of field number 19, but I had also started out doing it my old way, or my standard way of doing the headlands first. So I did about two runs of headlands and then came in and did the middle. But as you can tell, the ends here, I have some compaction that I need to basically sort out. So not a big deal. Again, I'm just kind of playing with this mod. It's not going to really have a lot of bearing on anything relating to the future of this map, simply because, well, we'll be off this map in just about 2 weeks time, actually, because in 2 weeks, well, less than 2 weeks, FarmSim 19 comes out, and of course I'll be out of town for a portion of that period of time, and we'll actually miss probably almost the first week of it being out before I actually get a chance to get it installed and get it going. But in any event, I kind of just wanted to point that out to you and let you kind of see that is potentially an issue. And I really don't even know if cultivating over the top of it, of where I've already done my runs and everything, is going to help us. But I'm going to go ahead and clean up these ends anyway, some of the areas that I missed, and then because it was sort of after the fact, after I put the headlands in, that I realized that, oh boy, I should be doing it a little bit more realistically, and so I will just try to remember to do it that way going forward. So what we're going to do is we're going to spend a few more minutes getting this area here cleaned up, and then we're going to head over and we're going to pick up our seeder and come back over to this field and go ahead and seed this field with oilseed radish. Again, just kind of killing time, if anything else, just doing this and getting this out of the way. And then we'll do other tasks in other videos and kind of keep moving the chains sort of down the field, if you will. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this end stuff here, and then we'll go back to the other end and we'll clean that up, and then again just do the best that we possibly can, and then I'll just make a sort of a mental note that I need to make sure that in the future we need to do things a little more realistically. And I do try to do things as realistic as possible, and but on the other hand, it's kind of the way that I have done things with sort of doing my circle around the field and everything first, is just is a little easier from a visual perspective, because you can kind of more easily see where you've been, and also the game doesn't necessarily penalize you. Of course, it may do now because of the compaction mod, but historically the game has not penalized us for like cultivating this area or seeding this area and driving over the top of that. It does not have any bearing at all whatsoever. So we'll go ahead and lift up the well, let's see, we'll go ahead and just pull the cultivator down this way here, and then we'll get to the road. Now the other thing that I was thinking about, and again this was sort of after the fact, after I kind of implemented the mod and went ahead and cultivated this field, is I have been sort of using this field as a shortcut, as well as this field over here next to it, in getting from basically the main farm, which is right over there, over to the other area of the fields and everything. And of course I'm not going to be able to do that once we get this field kind of where we want it. Let me just check the soil compaction. Yeah, so it looks like because I had cultivated it and then drove over it, there's really no way of correcting it, I suppose, unless I were to bring in a plow or something. And I'm not going to waste that much time in doing that. It will just be something sort of a lessons learned exercise here, and then I'm just going to go up here and clean up this end of the field, and then we'll go over and pick up the seeder. But now I don't know, for example, yet I do not know how courseplay, if courseplay and the compaction mod does anything. So, you know, like for example, with courseplay, courseplay does not affect your crop destruction. So if you have the crop destruction mod enabled within FarmSim 17 and you set up your courseplay course, if it drives through your crops and everything, it doesn't destroy the crops. So what I don't know is if with courseplay running and, say for example, cultivating, will it basically do the job of decompacting the soil, for lack of a better description. My guess is it will work just fine, but I don't have that knowledge at this particular point in time, but we'll try to figure that out and get that information to you all very soon. So basically, I think instead of hauling this cultivator over to the other storage area, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it down, because we most likely, after we wreck that post, wow, that was a poor decision on my part. I think most likely we'll be, or I will be, cultivating these other fields over here. What was the canola field, we'll get that done. And like I said, we'll do that off camera, because I don't think there's really any need in showcasing that activity for another episode, since we've kind of already done that already. And I'm just going to take this guy up here and drop him off, and let him set here under this tree. So there we go. So we are going to use the cloth with the seeder that we're going to go over and pick up at the other lot, and we'll do that right now. Hope everyone is having a wonderful day. As I get a drink of water to sort of keep my throat nice and lubricated. We'll go down this direction here, go across this bridge here. So I guess it was really starting last week, I suppose, when I was not really feeling well and was off work for a couple of days, and then I worked from home. I had been watching some YouTube stuff and kind of trying to get caught up on the various differences and stuff with FarmSim 19, or at least some things that we could look forward to with FarmSim 19. And what I did was I kind of made a note, if you will. Let's see. Let me do this, and then let's get backed up to this guy here. And let's go ahead and put him on oilseed radish. And we'll get pulled out. And we'll go over and fill this guy up with seeds and some fertilizer, and then go ahead and get started. Let's see, can we get seeds and fertilizer out of this maybe? I've never tried this at this location, so we will see if this is a waste of time or if this actually, well, we can get fertilizer out of this. So we'll do that, and of course it is taking our money out, but that's not a problem. So anyway, some of the things that we know, obviously, and we've known this for, I suppose, some time now. We can get seeds out of there as well. Obviously, we know that FarmSim 19 is going to come out unless something, unless something happens. FarmSim 19 will come out on November the 20th. And now that's a Tuesday in the U.S. I don't know if that is, if I remember correctly with FarmSim 17, I believe that also came out, was scheduled to come out on a Tuesday. I don't know what date in October that was scheduled to come out, but I do happen to know that FarmSim 17 released. It released on Monday afternoon, because the reason why I know this, and the reason why I'm fairly certain that this was the case, was because at that particular point in time 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, 2 years and a month ago, because remember, FarmSim 19 is coming out sort of a month after, or a month later than what 17 came out. I was working in our Colorado Springs office on Mondays. I was going down on Mondays and working in that office, and I remember really not knowing if it was going to come out on Monday afternoon or if it was going to basically be the 20th. I am pretty sure that FarmSim 17 was maybe the first game that I had purchased through Steam, that I had basically pre-ordered before it had released and all that kind of stuff. And so, sort of long story short, I know that it came out then because I remember leaving the office and thinking to myself, okay, I want to hurry up and get home because I want to, take advantage of it, playing it and everything and getting started on it. And so that's kind of how I know that that when it came out like that. So anyway, let me pause just a moment. All right, so I know I said I was going to try to refrain from using the GPS mod. I'm going to try to get us lined up over here on this edge of the field and see if everything is going to work out okay, and I think it will. Let me just scooch this over just a smidge there, and there we go. And we'll get lined up here, and we'll just do this edge here first. Get our seeder turned on and start laying down some oilseed radish. So anyway, the reason why I'm using the GPS mod, especially for this, is because I'm reading some information that I wrote into an Excel spreadsheet, and I need to kind of keep my eyes off of the action here so I can kind of read my notes. So anyway, we know that FarmSim 19 is going to come out on the 20th. So all that's fine and good, and I would expect that the 20th will be that date unless there is something catastrophic is going on with the game. But I would have thought that especially if Giants factored in that extra 30 days for the release, they kind of feel pretty confident with that, and I'm sure that it's been testing for quite some time now. We should be getting fairly close to the time frame that some of the lucky YouTube folks will have access to it. I think that was maybe about a week before when 17 came out, about a week before when we started seeing some of those YouTube folks with early access to the game. We know that obviously there is a whole lot of new equipment. Now I'm going to try to remember that I'm going to do my headlands last, so we're going to come around and do our turn, and I suppose we should actually lift our seeder up. Obviously, there's a whole lot of new equipment that's coming out in the game, and I'm not gonna cover that stuff with you all, just because it has sort of been done almost ad nauseum. I mean, it's pretty much everywhere. I watched a video last week, I think it was. YouTube person basically went through almost every item that is going to be in Farm Sim 19, and so much of it, as we know, it's basically equipment that was in Farm Sim 17. So really, instead of saying, okay, I'm going to make a 10-minute video and I'm only going to cover the net new equipment that's going to be in 19, he basically went over everything, and so it was a little bit of a snooze fest. But I suppose, if someone is not familiar with 17 or even 15, and they're just kind of looking at getting started with this genre of simulation-based game, I'm guessing that that would be something that would be of interest to them. But so I'm not going to go over that. There's some cool equipment. Obviously, the John Deere stuff everybody's looking forward to. And before I leave the subject of equipment, I sort of was in the Discord, in the Simulation Gaming Society Discord channel today, and sort of heard someone or saw someone refer to Farm Sim 19 as the American John Deere simulator, and I don't see it that way at all. I mean, I know that maybe Giants, and I'm sure everyone else, is making a really big deal out of the fact that that John Deere is in the game now. But and then when I sort of question this particular person, they're like, well, it's kind of how some of the Germans and some of the other Europeans are feeling, because there's an American map and this kind of stuff. And my comment back to that was, well, for years it's been more of a Eurocentric farming simulator, and it still very much is today, in the sense that if you look through the catalog of equipment, there's still a lot of European branded equipment and stuff that we don't really see here on this side of the pond. But anyway, I sort of digress, and not gonna further go down that path. But we also know that there's going to be three maps to Farm Sim 19. There's going to be 2 new maps, and then of course the South American map, and I've never been able to pronounce that name, so I'm not even going to try. But that obviously will be in the game, as well as Ravenport is the U.S. map, and then Felsbrunn, I believe, is the European map, and that is all the maps look fantastic. I'm assuming that obviously the South American map has been enhanced for Farm Sim 19 in some way, but that's fairly standard. I mean, if you're a connoisseur of the farming simulator franchise, then obviously you kind of know that the maps that came out as part of the expansion DLC of the previous version make their way into the next version. So we saw this with Sosnovka. We saw this, obviously now we're seeing this with the South American map, where Sosnovka came out as part of the DLC late in Farm Sim 15. That was a base map in Farm Sim 17, and then we've got the South American map, which came out as part of a DLC for Farm Sim 17, and that has made its way into 19. So Ravensport is a US map, and then Felsbrunn is the European map. So these are also just standard size maps, so I think there might have been some speculation that one of these maps or more of these maps might be 4x size, but these are just your standard size maps, whatever that is. Today in Farm Sim 17 is what it's going to basically be in Farm Sim 19. Of course, that doesn't mean that mod developers and everything can't make larger maps, and I'm sure they will. Let me put my cursor over here so I can kind of keep up with where I'm at here on my list. Obviously, the new crops, cotton in oats, and of course the usefulness of oats is probably going to be twofold. Obviously, one being it'll be a crop that can be sold, hopefully, and then the second being it will be needed for your horses. Now, speaking of horses, I think I have this further down my list, but obviously we can buy horses now, and they basically start off relatively, well, untrained, I suppose, and then as they build up in various stages, once they reach a certain stage, then we can sell the horses for profit. So that's kind of cool. There is going to be new wildlife in Farm Sim 19, as we know, deer, and then the cool thing about the birds is the birds will actually follow your seeders or your cultivators or whatever, and that's kind of cool because a lot of the real life farming videos and everything that I watch, especially when they're seeding, they almost always have birds out in the field that's coming along and trying to get the seeds and everything out of the ground. So that's going to be cool. There are going to be 3 game modes. There's the basic, and then there's going to be, I think, something that's referred to as Farm Manager, where you've got a little, kind of already established setting. You've got some money and everything, maybe not a whole lot, but you've got a little bit. And then there is the sort of start with nothing mode, where you're, just basically you don't have anything, you don't own anything at all, and you're gonna just have to kind of claw your way through the game. You can either start with a pre-built farm, or you can basically start from scratch as well, and I'm assuming that that's factored in with the various modes of the game. So I'm assuming probably basic. Farm Manager will include some aspects of some pre-built functions, maybe a little bit of equipment, as well as some barns and things like that. Whereas Start from Scratch is literally going to be starting from scratch and scratching your way as you get things going. So those are the modes. Let me make this turn here. All right, so off we go again. The other cool thing that I really sort of liked about what I'm hearing about Farm Sim 19 is the fact that everything for the farm is now placeable. So you can decide where you want to have your, I'm assuming we'll decide where we want to have our grain silos, where we want to have our dairy operations, where we want to have our pigs and sheep live and that sort of thing. And I think that's pretty cool. Also, today if you place a placeable, you kind of got to be careful about where you place it, because if you've got terrain that maybe to the eye looks fairly level, fairly even, boy, I tell you, that placeable will certainly show any sort of abnormalities in the ground and everything, and will obviously sort of exploit that, because you'll see one side of the building, or especially one sort of maybe the concrete or whatever, is going to be a little bit higher than the other. Well, with 19, they've fixed that, and essentially it's going to be sort of auto leveling, so we don't have to really worry about the aesthetics, the cosmetics of it all. That unless it's just something that's just blatantly unlevel, we're not going to have to worry about that. And I think that's really cool, and I think that's a good direction to basically move this in, to make it a little bit easier and obviously a little bit more pleasing to the eye. Animal areas are now placeables again, like I sort of mentioned a few moments ago, where I think we can, at least the way I interpret this, is that we can decide where we want to place things. Where, do we want to have, me, I'm attracted to maps where the pigs, the cows, and the sheep are all in the same area, because I like that, because I think that's a little bit more realistic. So we can choose to do that. We can choose where to place them within, our operation, whatever we're doing. Obviously, we've also heard a great deal about, instead of buying fields, so for example, this was field number 19, and we buy it for X many hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever the case is, we're now going to be buying plots of land. So a plot of land might be something, if we bring up our map, a plot of land might be like everything within, this circle here, 11, 9, 10, 25, 24, 23, etc. And then we determine, okay, well, we want to put our main farm here at where 20 is. We want to have our house, and we want to have our barns and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of how it would be set up. And then the other cool thing, while we're still on the subject of the whole plots of land and everything, is that they can be sold. So, if we want to do sort of a scenario where we're starting from scratch, starting from nothing, and we're building up our farming empire and everything, and if at some stage we want to, sell out lock, stock, and barrel, I'm assuming that, that means that hopefully, especially if we've improved things, if we've created fields, if we've set up our buildings and our houses and the cow areas and those sort of things, I would hope that the value of the land and the value of everything would appreciate to where that we could actually make a little bit of money out of that. And that would be cool for those of us that kind of like to do stories from one map to the other. So we kind of start off working at GreenRiver. We build our empire and everything, and then we want to move over and start up operations at the next, whatever the next map is. There are some new character customizations. I really did not pay a whole lot of attention to this, just simply because I'm kind of a basic kind of guy. I think I pretty much choose the default clothing and everything for my character, and I'm not really that bothered by it. But I think we can choose different types of caps and jackets and stuff like that, perhaps. And that's cool for those people that kind of want that flexibility, want that functionality. There are some new animated vehicle features that will be a part of the default vehicles that will be in game. These will include the movement of pedals, levers, switches, and stuff like that will now move. Some modded equipment we see that now, but I'm assuming that it's going to be a lot more robust and everything with the new game. Now, there is no IC with the default equipment. I think that was something that people may have speculated sort of early on, that maybe we would see more IC within the default equipment. Obviously, we have IC with some modded equipment today, and we even had some IC with 15 that I recall, but we're not going to have that with FarmSim 19. So I guess maybe that was just something that Giants just could not get to for whatever reason, and so it had to be just more or less scrapped, I suppose. We're going to do a couple more of these, and then we will resume this sort of list of FarmSim 19 features on the next episode. I'll just kind of remember where I left off. Interior lights, from what I understand, interior lights will now be a lot more beautiful, perhaps, is the way to characterize it. Anytime you have your lights on, the tractor lights or whatever, your dash lights and everything are going to nicely illuminate, and I think that's kind of cool. And then, of course, we also, I believe, will enjoy a new suspension system, and from what I understand, the suspension system will kind of be twofold. There'll be a certain element that we'll see outside of the cab, similar to what we're seeing here today. Hopefully, we won't see the tire tread bounce through the fender there. But also in cab, we're supposed to see maybe some simulated head bobble, head shake, that sort of thing. For those of you, if you're familiar with Flight Sim, if you're familiar with some of the features that we've had available in Flight Sim for a little while, then that's going to kind of make sense to you with how that may work and everything. And I will tell you that it is kind of cool, but if you find yourself getting a little bit motion sickness, at least it's been sort of my reaction within it for Flight Sim, is that sometimes that becomes a little bit overwhelming, and I've either tried to lessen the experience or just completely disable it, because after a while you literally will get a little bit motion sickness. It's almost that realistic. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming up on we're a little bit past our magic number of 30 minutes. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to off camera go ahead and finish seeding this field with oilseed radish. I'll figure out what we're going to do for the next episode, and I'm possibly going to record that today. I'm having fun. I've got some time, and I'm enjoying playing, and so I'm going to release videos as I sort of make them. So I'm not necessarily worried about a schedule or anything like that for right now. So they're just going to come out as I have them. So maybe one a day for a little while, and there might be a day where a video doesn't come out. But I'm just going to try to take advantage of the time that I have with 17 before it basically sunsets and goes away, and of course before I go to Texas for Thanksgiving. So anyway, thank you all so very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Head over to the Simulation Gaming Society Discord channel if you are not over there yet. Head over there and get into a conversation with not only myself, Eustace Farmer, and Doug Zorley, but also all the other members that have joined. We're talking about Farm Sim 19. Doug Zorley has done a fantastic job of putting all the fact sheets in, as well as the video highlights and all that kind of stuff. And so there's a lot of dialogue and conversation that's taking place about 19. So if you feel like you're maybe a little bit behind the eight ball, you don't really know what to expect of the new game, head over there and we'll get you all caught up in everything with everything that you need to know. And then tune back in for the next episode, and I will certainly finish my my list here of the features that I have discovered, or I have found, researched to be in Farm Sim 19. And again, I'm really quite looking forward to it, and I'm kind of wishing that I was not going to be out of town, but family and all that kind of stuff comes first. And so I will just play catch up once I get back, and as I've said before, I'll just also live vicariously through those that will have both early access as well as will get access starting on the 20th, and we'll hopefully be putting out some live streams and some videos and stuff while I am stuffing my face with turkey on Thanksgiving. So really, until next time, thank you again for watching. I appreciate it, and take good care of yourself and also of each other, and I'll see you down the road. Bye bye for now.